Hey,
All right.
welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
really good to be here.
Thanks for doing this. Doesn't it feel like such a professional environment, the studio?
It's awesome, Rob. I think this is just great.
Seriously, Kevin, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, no problem.
So I have Kevin Boon, I guess, general business renaissance man, and we've known each other through Innovation Guelph.
Absolutely.
And still rocking there.
Yeah.
But to classic I'm in a car fashion,
Yes.
I know a lot of people in this area will know kind of who you are and what you've been up to and
Yeah.
how well you play the guitar, but maybe you could give us a little bit of an intro.
Yes, I'd be happy to give you a bit of an intro.
Thanks.
So I don't know, where do I start? It's I've worked actually with Innovation Guelph for the last 5 years. The background that I actually coming into Innovation Guelph was I worked a good chunk of my career in the tech industry. So I worked in Waterloo for a good period of time. I actually started out my education. I originally wanted to become a mechanical engineer, and then decided after about 4 months of working in that I actually didn't want to become an engineer. so then So I had gone to Conestoga for that, and then I went to Laurier, and I decided to major in economics. Economics was great, and actually particularly the co-op semesters that I had, because I had some great chances. I worked with what used to be called External Affairs, and I worked,
Right.
They're now Global Affairs Canada, but I worked in their high-tech division at the time. And that actually introduced me to the whole world of technology.
Cool.
And I kind of started my career working in Waterloo with MKS, and then eventually MapleSoft and a couple of others. Really interesting companies. We, just did a whole variety of things. And so I always kind of feel that I had a combination of interests, and they just kind of all merged. Technology being one of them. Entrepreneurship and helping businesses being another one, but I've also always had an interest as well in things like psychology, understanding how people think, especially when I got into sales. It was understanding how do you work with people that are totally different personalities than yourself,
right.
And things like that. So
That's cool.
Those were areas that always interested me.
Was it Daniel Pink you wrote To Sell Is Human?
Yeah.
In the chapter it said chameleons eat more pie.
Yeah, something like that.
All around the idea of the best salespeople in the world know how to become the person they're selling with.
Yeah, there was a guy back in the day called Tony Alexandria, and he had the 4 quadrants of types of personalities, and the one was the director, the other was the, I'm trying to remember now, the analytic, and then you had the relationship type person, and then the promoter. Those
Right.
are kind of the theories that
That's cool.
that they went around. So from that you learn skills, and you learn how to working within your world and things like that, and it's been a lot of interesting growth and opportunity for sure.
And so that led you, into some random series of events that got you at Innovation Guelph.
Yeah, so I was doing some work at the time, working with companies at the Accelerator Center, doing some of my own consulting work, and I had a chance to meet Jamie Doran at an event in Waterloo. We made a connection. We hit it off. He's, and he invited me to come on board and do mentoring for companies at Innovation Guelph. What was really exciting about Guelph and the whole Guelph experience is it took me for the first time outside of technology.
Right.
So I had a chance now at Guelph, and Guelph being different than Communitech, if you will, or Waterloo, in the sense is it took me into this place where I had a chance. The first companies that I met were food companies, were agri-food, agri-tech, clean tech, biotech, and then even got into working with companies in the last few years on the manufacturing side.
Cool.
And to me, that's what makes business, is this whole broad spectrum of what we have out there.
And went through Innovation Guelph, you had the chance to have that kind of experience.
Absolutely. And so over the last 5 years or so, I've had the chance to work with, I don't know what the numbers are, but it's hundreds of companies.
Right.
And I've worked both in the role of mentoring and doing client services, where I'm usually the first point of contact where a company comes in, and I have to sit there and review, assess, and say, hey, what a great idea, or hey, you know what, this one needs a little bit more work.
That's a very nice way to put it.
Yes, I'm always
this napkin isn't going to cut it.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have a business plan, and this is all just not written down yet. Excellent, good, okay, well, let's keep talking, you know.
That's great. So, I mean, if you had to put a number on it, what would you say? Like over 500, under 500?
It would be definitely over 500. I would say it's getting, I don't know, probably close to 700, 800 companies with it, just to add Innovation Guelph. That doesn't include other stuff that I've done as well, but it's a lot of companies.
That's cool. And it gives you kind of a neat perspective. So that's kind of what we talked about this a little before,
Yeah.
but kind of wanted to dig into a little bit was, being exposed to not just the startup community, but the business community through Innovation Guelph at such a meaningful rate in terms of, call it 700 business introductions / deep dives into the model over the course of 4 years?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah, over 5 years, yeah.
That kind of gives you a really neat perspective of what's going on with regard to the world of the new business.
Yeah.
So I was curious, through all those experiences, you've probably had an opportunity to see a lot of companies do well.
Yes.
A lot of companies not do so well.
Yeah.
And I was just curious what some of the common themes were or threads were with the companies that are doing all right, and now they're growing.
So when you look at business, it's always good to so there's several things that I go from in doing mentorship with companies. Number one is you have to have a structure for understanding, what are the best practices for helping businesses to grow, right? So people today use the business model canvas. There's different business planning methodologies and tools that you can assess businesses. So number one, you have to have a good sense of, do these ideas make sense? But secondly, there's another piece that I think can be forgotten sometimes, and that's the element of the entrepreneur themselves and what I like to call their confidence, their tenacity, their coachability, their openness to changing. Think about your business and maybe over the years how many times you've had to pivot, had to change, had to figure out, okay, we're going to need to do a different approach. That comes down to having that openness and flexibility to be able to figure out how you're going to do that. And so what I find over the years is that you learn to find out where are the gaps in the structural process. I always look for there's two things. One is I always want to get to the questions of why. What's the passion? What are they bringing to the table? Kind of what you talk about with Simon Sinek and others. But then the second is I want to understand where they are in certain aspects of their business. So there's sheets that I use where we talk. There's about 5 themes that we use. We want to understand product and business model. Do they have a handle on it? Do they have a handle on customer sales and success and how to actually grow markets and build their markets? Is there a team, or is there an idea that at some stage they want to build a team? And if you're building a business that is a hobby business, or if it's just going to be a business where you're going to build a retail store or a consulting business, you can get by quite often without building a team. Right. But if you want to build a business that has any type of scale to it, then you've got to figure out what is your strategy going to be around building that. So I look at does the entrepreneur have a knowledge, first of all? And if so, do they have the ability to know how to potentially build something at some stage that's right for them in terms of scale and operation? And then, sorry, I think I'm going into more detail.
No, that's cool.
But then there's the other piece that talks a little bit around, and then the big question on overarching it all is, how are you going to fund this thing? Details. Because if we talk about a business and say, what if it takes 2 to 3 years sometimes to build a positive revenue stream out of something? What is the plan? And so I always want to get a sense of, do they have an idea of any or all of that? Right. And then if they don't, if there's big gaps, then it's finding how to fill those gaps in both their knowledge and their skill set. So then what's the biggest common theme you've seen in the companies that have come through and are doing well now? If there was 1 or 2 things that stood out, I would say that it is that element of that. There really is that. I have to say it when I see entrepreneurs come in that have when I meet them and they have these big wide eyes and they're so happy to see me and they're so open to coachability, they're so open to learning that they want to learn. That's the big part about what they want to do. So the coachability, it's that tenacity, it's that building the confidence. Those are usually those skill sets that they need to get over those humps.
And it's interesting because they're almost in contrast. Confident, tenacious, and coachable.
Yes. Not
always what someone might think as a common skill set together.
Absolutely.
Because, you could perceive confident, tenacious with arrogant ego.
And there's different ways that you can go with that today, right? One thing that I've learned over the last few years, and if you take a look at our current political spectrum about where things goes, let's say, we sometimes have this idea that, do-gooders can, be financially successful, and, that's the way that the world's moving in. But when you take a look at, and respectfully, somebody like Donald Trump, who has a very different set of values than a lot of people, right? And let's just put that in real context, right? If you were to say Donald Trump believes in power and money, and he's been able to accomplish so much of that in his life. But at the same time, he has this belief, or it seems that he has this belief, that he knows more than you because he has those pieces.
Right.
And there's a part to Donald Trump where when you talk to him about, skills like empathy, or humble, or whatever it is, vulnerability, those are things that don't come into his mindset.
Yeah.
But what I've seen is that with this growing, and this is getting back to your theme of, what is the new entrepreneurship? The new entrepreneurship is about people that are starting to build really successful businesses and organizations, but also combine their success, which comes through confidence and, driven and tenacity, those kind of things. But they align also with, ideas around understanding vulnerability, empathy, and compassion. Those are interesting pieces.
So I think it's good for a lot of people that are out there. First of all, Innovation Guelph is a great resource, and all the research innovation centers in Ontario are great resources.
Yeah.
And if you've got a great idea, that's amazing. Go make it a reality.
Yeah.
But do so with a coachable mindset. Because it's just interesting because I'd say I'm confident and tenacious.
Yeah.
And people might perceive me sometimes as maybe a little arrogant.
Sure.
I'm obviously maybe not coming across the way I want to.
You're not arrogant. You're a good guy.
Thanks, Kevin. You say that on the show. I appreciate it. But I also have a rule, right, which is do anything Steve says. And
sure.
Steve's our mentor at Innovation Guelph.
Right.
So, it's funny. The first time I went and got mentored with Steve, he said, "You know what you need to do?" And it was the first time in my life where I was like, "I don't know, tell me."
Yeah.
And every other time I heard that line, I was like, "I can tell you what you need to do."
Oh, and you have that feeling, right? And that's a really good point. Is that when you look for mentors, it's sometimes you have to search a little bit, and a lot of times it's a personality, it's a connection, it's a trust, and it's a bond you build over time.
I totally agree with that.
And I'll tell you my belief today versus when I went through my early business career, I didn't really understand the role of mentorship, and I would say that I never really valued it.
Right.
And I went through, crash and burn times where I struggled. There was pieces where I tried something. I tried to work at building, a business at one stage, and that business kind of went through a place where it went through a huge decline. And I ended up kind of, having, all my possessions in my car. I was driving back from British Columbia. I had all my possessions in my car. I had no assets.
It was a big car.
I was about, it was a Mazda Protege 3.
Right, yeah. Not a big car.
But then I had like $50,000 in debt or whatever it was, and I went through that piece, but I didn't have mentors. I didn't have coaches. I didn't have those people that were able to help kind of guide me along the way. And maybe sometimes when I probably should have said, "Hey, I need some help, working on this."
Right.
It was kind of going through that phase. And what it taught me back then was, there was a piece of, that I had a lot of ego, I had a lot of drive, I had a lot of passion. There were things that I wanted to create in my life. But sometimes going through the failure is the piece that teaches you how to be humble. it teaches you understanding a little bit more. You know, you have to go deeper into the layers. And I think that's what's helped me over the years to become a decent mentor for people, is that I can help them and enable them to go into the places where they want to go by helping to build plans, strategies, and methodologies. But on the other hand, I can also have that conversation with them about when it doesn't go as well as they wanted.
Right, and be vulnerable with them, and
absolutely
feel the love when someone's going through a tough spot.
Yeah,
it happens to everybody, right? Entrepreneurship, almost by definition, is a roller coaster of wicked wins and wicked lows.
And it happens to all of us, whether it's in entrepreneurship or business or in life, right? Everybody, no matter where you go on the spectrum, at some stage you're going to have to deal with, you know, a job loss, or, you know, life challenges or health challenges, or somebody dying, or whatever it is, right? It's those things that, you know, I feel that we all have to deal with at some stage.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, yeah, it's like the one thing that's always for sure going to happen in everybody's life that there's zero training for, and coaching on, or curriculum about.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the flip side, so I asked you about some of the themes or trends you see in the entrepreneurs that come through and end up being successful, but what are some of the things that you're seeing that people just aren't good at, generally speaking, or don't have a perspective on, or don't have experience with, or aren't coming prepped or ready with,
right? That
you could be like, hey, for anybody that's thinking entrepreneurship, make sure you start checking off these boxes or having this figured out.
Sure. So there's a couple of things, and I don't know if you've ever seen this, but I've seen it a lot. I always see, many times I see companies and people that are building products, and they say, boy, you know, we're just going to build this product and we're going to create this really awesome website, and by God, when we do, everybody's going to buy this thing.
Right. Feel their dreams start.
And they've got this incredible idea. They've got this great idea, but at the end of the day, I don't know if I've personally ever seen anybody be like a one-hit wonder. Like I know that happens out there, and I know that,
and we hear about it a lot.
You know, and you hear about it, but at the end of the day, what typically happens for somebody, whether they're building a skill on YouTube and being really good at marketing themselves, whether they're, you know, building a Facebook following or whatever it is, usually they're learning the skill sets around building good content, learning how to build communications and outreach, and then learning how to build good networking and sales skills that connect them.
Yeah.
So when I look at the skill set that typically is missing, if I talk to engineers or product designers, one of those big skills that I'm asking for is, okay, well, where's the sales power here? Where's the sales and marketing? It's that combination of that communications and your ability to build relationship.
Right.
What happens for most companies that I see at a certain stage as well is that they've been great at building products, they've been great at building outreach, they've got a decent team that's assembled, and then at some stage within the conversation is the finance, and how do we make this work financially and actually build cash flow so we can actually pay people.
Kind of important.
It's a little bit important. So at some stage I see companies, or at many stages I see companies go through that evolution where they need that help. And that's what programs like at Innovation Guelph called Fast Lane have been really helpful for the small to medium sized companies, because we actually go in and diagnose and say, you know, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Entrepreneur, what's keeping you up at night?
Right.
You know, what are the challenges that you're facing in your business?
Sorry, Steve's been asking me that recently. I'm like, twins, man. Twin babies are keeping me up at night.
And I see that on your Facebook feed all the time. I love it. It's great. And aren't they great though?
Oh yeah. But they do keep me up, that's for sure. Last night was brutal.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I mean, I think what I got out of that though was, you know, a lot of engineers and product designers are missing the sales and marketing horsepower or perspective.
Yeah.
Even just the idea of talking to customers.
Absolutely.
And then on the flip side, or even just in addition to that, the whole kind of financing, understanding how planning the finances, understanding cash flow and the significance of cash flow versus profit.
And if there's a thing that I would say is that, you know, number one, a good entrepreneur knows that they're not good at everything. And sometimes there's a self-awareness that you need to build around that, is about that understanding. And I always ask people to take an inventory and say, what do you love doing? What's the thing that you absolutely love doing?
Yeah.
What's that element that you can, you know, you like doing it, but it's not particularly the most favorite thing. And then what are the things that you absolutely hate doing? And sometimes, and often, it's that finance thing that comes for whatever it is, right? Like, and I say that probably from my own perspective too, right? I just, let me find somebody who's going to help me do that, right?
Sure.
And then, so that I always just say that, well, find, for those things that you absolutely hate doing, invest in a resource or somebody that's going to be able to help you to do it professionally and properly and the way you want to. And that is that is the one of the most important pieces around it. So
yeah, and I can't echo that loud enough.
Yeah.
One of the things that I see in a lot of my day-to-day when I'm working with clients is the lack of financial acumen.
Yeah.
And it was even a couple weeks ago where somebody said, we're getting our year end, or we just got our year end. It was 3 to 4 months after their year end, which was July 1st, and it was just a couple weeks ago. It's November. We just got our year end. It looks like we had a good year last year.
Yeah.
So they only knew 3 months after the year had finished that they had a good year.
Yes.
Which for me was like crazy. Like I want to know yesterday, like today.
Yeah.
Or last month was good. I want to know.
Or weekly or monthly, right?
Oh, like like bare minimum.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand the value of having their numbers in order.
Yeah.
In order to make good decisions.
Yeah.
And I think because a lot of people don't want to do it,
they
kind of ignore it. And I just, I really want to say to everybody out there that if you're running your own business or thinking about it, know your numbers, figure it out. I mean, at the core, learn debits and credits so you understand what's going on with your journal entries.
Absolutely. And to take that back to the startup phase, if you're in a business and you're trying to finance what you're doing, but the day-to-day sales that you're trying to make in your startup are going to pay your rent or mortgage, then that's not a good model. and honest to God, I've seen it where, this is, hey, I've got this meeting with the city, I think we're really going to be able to close this, and this person has never sold to the city before in their life, and they don't know about the bureaucracy and not the bureaucracy, whatever.
Yeah, process.
It's process, right?
Yeah,
it's finding
decision-making
it's the decision-making. It's all that kind of stuff. And sometimes those decisions to purchase things with the city or government or companies can take, 6 months to a couple of years.
Yeah.
And it's having that mindset in mind when you're selling. And if you're concerned about your own financial well-being when you're doing that, it's a big red flag. So that's when, I have to be able to say to entrepreneurs, look, you need to do more planning and structure here. And it's about bringing your personal piece in place in the same way that you're trying to build this business. So sometimes you have to run it as a hobby for a while.
Sure.
Until you can figure that out, right?
That's a totally fair perspective. Or at least have money set aside.
Absolutely.
Or get your dad or your mom or your uncle to float you cash to get the whole thing running. But I think it's fair.
And people don't always understand that. And what I do see the trap that some people get into is they get into the trap of the perpetual startup, where they've been running this business for 5 years, but it's still technically a startup. And it's and as what's his name, Steve Blank always says, the goal of a startup is to actually find a repeatable business model that's going to turn you into a small business.
Yeah, by definition, a startup is a temporary structure.
It's a temporary organization, right?
Yeah.
Right. So those are, critical pieces that I see of starting it. So
that's cool. So what's next in the chapter for Kevin Boon? You mentioned a little bit about how you're shifting a little bit at Innovation Guelph and you're maybe starting another project?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple things, and I will do a plug right now.
Plug it up.
For my wife, Karen.
Oh, nice.
I am helping her right now. She has a gourmet sauces business called Saucy Grandma. She's been building it for the last 2 to 3 years, or 3 to 4 years. And it's awesome. She has done such a great job with marketing, branding, building the products. And
she's got a website?
She's got a website, saucygrandma.com. I've been working with her.
Great name.
It's a great name. And so let me tell you this. So, Oh Honey, It's Spicy.
Yeah.
Honey Chipotle barbecue sauce.
Beauty.
It's got a little bit of spice, but nice flavor. Bango the mango chutney.
Yeah.
So it's mango chutney sauce. Tipsy Strawberry, which is a strawberry sport sauce. And I've been working with her right now to help get that into retail, and we're proud to say that we've now got it in Market Fresh in Guelph, Mosborough Country Market in Guelph, Dars in Elora, and Freybert's in Fergus.
Yeah, okay, sweet.
And we just signed on Coddle's Catch in Kitchener. So
look at that.
We're super excited. Oh yeah, and then O&V in Cambridge. So that's they also carried as well. So we're starting to build that, and I'm really working with her collaboratively with that. And then on the other end of it, I'm building out my consulting stream a little bit more. I'm looking at what my next entrepreneurial endeavors are going to be. Planning to launch a website in the new year, and I'll be a lot of my work to start will be a bit about embedded executive work with companies, and just helping them with whatever problems they have, and that could be companies or not-for-profits, governments, you name it.
Organizations of all shapes.
There's all kinds of areas that I can help out with. So anyway, so that's it.
Cool.
Oh, and I didn't mention that I'm taking Improv 101 at the Making Box.
Nice.
So
when did you start doing that?
A couple weeks ago.
And?
So we're just we're going into our third session this week, and Jay Reed and Haley at Making Box are great. And
they've taken you under their wing?
They've taken me under their wing, so you never know. Maybe I'll let people know when the final thing is. But
yeah, okay, because there's like a performance, right? To graduate or something like that?
And then just one other thing I'd say is that I'm planning to do a little bit more speaking and writing. So there's a bunch of projects that I have underway that are it's getting out there a little bit more, doing more of the thought leadership stuff.
Cool.
And there's lots of ideas, right?
So one thing you tell yourself 20 years ago that you wish you knew then that you know now?
You know what I would say 20 years ago is, find some good mentors. And I don't mean just one or whatever it is, but if you can find a couple, 2 or 3 people that you can build a level of trust that you can really learn from and be an open book about it. Like, to me that's the thing that I would say was the big, that would be my conversation with me back then.
Cool. Awesome.
So
anyway, thanks for doing this.
Thanks very much, Rob. Really appreciate it.
Maybe next time we'll get the guitar in the car?
We can totally do that. We can do or we could do like a jam on the roof, just kind of like the Beatles, and just kind of like, if it's summer, of course, we'll do that. But
I'm in.
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay, sweet. I'll get the tripod.
Awesome.
All right, thanks for doing this, Kevin.
Sounds good.
All right,
thanks.
see you guys.
Yeah.